Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Ozark Season 4, Episode 13. The penultimate episode. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we didn't get the van flipping scene, so it's like, oh, cool. So that really is the series, going to be in the series for now. That's probably going to be like the last shot of the season, maybe. We might even or at the very least, that might be a couple minutes before the end. Dude, I don't know. I don't know what the full expect, where the series finale is going to take us, but running through this episode, Wendy is not in a good place. She actually tried to, sign herself into a facility, the same one that Ben was at. I thought that was kind of interesting. She willingly is trying to sign herself in. She was even saying, right, can we get past all the paperwork and stuff? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like how distressed she was. I feel like normally you jump on that, but I guess they were saying the first lady was just like, oh, I'm tired of dealing with this entitled crazy lady or something like that. Then John steps in and she's like, well, John, I'm thinking about hurting you, John. I'm really thinking about hurting you. And he's like, all right. Because I think his justification was there's 160 patients here, and they only have 164 beds, so we're only saving it for people who really, really need it. And so he's like, yeah, here's a long list of therapists, and she's banging on John. I'm like, is that how a medical expert, considering the facility, I'm like, it seemed like she was kind of distressed, so I feel like they would have probably jumped on that a little better than they did. But like I said, maybe they thought she was just, we deal with mental illness, but right now you're just acting not using crazy in a medical sense, just in you're acting like a crazy entitled lady, that type of sense. So they just kind of shoo her away. And at the same time this is all happening, Ruth made her big swing. She it all worked out. Now she has mostly control of it. Marty and them still have some percentage, but they're still not the main larger stake owners in the casino. So now it's a situation of Marty's like, oh, cool. And he's like, and she got a record expunged. She was like, oh man, that's good. Great for you. I think there was a part of Marty that's like, oh, if these were any other circumstances, I'd be happy for you. He's like, but you doing this is severely screwing me and my family over, because we need this place to launder money for Navarro, especially because he wants us to increase the amount of money that's being laundered too. So we kind of need this place. But Ruth is like, no, I'm running this business legit now. I'm not going to have you, as she puts it later on, you and Wendy aren't going to shit where I eat now. So they're kind of screwed on that front. So there's that. Wendy tries to pay off her dad to get her kids back. Is like, right, here's $2 million. And then she found out her dad's drinking. I guess it's because she saw the box and she knew what it was immediately. I guess it's been drinking has been a big part of his past. So she's like, oh, look at this. And she's just almost like, oh, wow, look at you. So here's $2 million. Can change a lot, build a house, yada, yada, yada. He's like, yeah, but I'm still taking the kids. And I love that she's pretty adamant about it. It's like, Mom, you know what, Mom, while you were off doing your thing, I was taking care of mine. It's like, you weren't taking care of your mom. It's like, no, I did. Mom was sick, and she forgave you at the end. All the beating us, the cheating on her. He's like, I never cheated on her. It's like, yeah, you did. And she knew about it. Mom forgave you like the good Christian she is. I'm not nearly as devout, and I will kill you before I let you take my kids. I'm like, yo, Wendy. And I think after that exchange, her dad, and it seemed like we might be going in the direction I was saying before where, we're going to see Nathan kind of in a bad spot. I mean, he found out about Ben, and now he's got to go through this whole thing with Wendy, saying Wendy humiliated herself. And she was like, no, I humiliated you. That's what this is really all about. You're worried about your image, especially what the church will think of you and such. But, he's drinking, and even later on, Ruth has an encounter with him. Oh, hey. And then he is, he puts up this front, I'm a good Christian man. But then he was like, oh, you basically bought the casino, the boat of Gomorrah or whatever. Referencing, the sin, that is a casino that trying to act holier than thou and whatnot, right? And Ruth's just kind of being, patient with him, oh, okay. And it's like, oh, what did you and my son talk about? It's like, this and that. How was your day? Type of stuff that he's like, okay, because you're not his type. And it's like, yeah. He's like, because blondes, they're, he's dipping in the brunettes like I am. But I was about to say, isn't Annalise a blonde? Maybe she's not a natural blonde or whatever. But almost makes you go like, that has to be like a shot at Wendy too, because Wendy's a blonde. It's felt like that was a shot against Wendy too, him being like, oh, blonde, and it got quite a mouth. So it wasn't just about Rue. He was taking out his frustrations about Wendy on Rue. But it's like, yeah, if you're like, you being drunk kind of brings who you are to the forefront. Like, if you're a happy drunk, it kind of like, oh, you're a good person. If you're a mean drunk, that means that's somewhere deep inside you. Like I said, he keeps up this air of like being a good Christian. Like, he's one of those just people who try to use the Lord to cover up the fact is they're shitty people. And it's just kind of like, right. Wendy kind of like, yeah, she kind of accepts that she's a shitty person. Marty kind of accepts they are shitty people. So does Ruth. And it's like, they don't try to use the Lord to kind of cover that up. And so, but the fact is he was just acting all weird and gross with her and just running his, like, telling her to watch her mouth and stuff. I'm like, who the fuck? And she's like, okay. And he's just like, he's like such a damn, like, okay. I think they didn't see it this episode, but I'm like, Jonah and Charlotte are going to have to, I mean, that's also the thing too, like, your granddaughter is blonde too, like, that's why I'm like, why would you say that? Once again, he's just an asshole, and the being drunk just, like, brought that out of him. It's there, just, they haven't seen it, and they still see this as an opportunity, like, right, we get to know Grandpa, like, they still don't want to take their mom's word on, like, him not being a good guy, and like I said, I think eventually they will see it. That's why when he started drinking, was it last episode, I figured that would be the storyline beat, that they'd eventually make it so that it's like, no, you're going to kind of see him for who he really is, but we'll see if that ends up really playing out. I feel like they are, like, leaning, like, the fact that they gave us that scene makes me feel like that's the direction that's going to go, so... With things as they are now, they're trying to figure out where they can launder the money through, and because Ruth's not going to help them out with the business, and Marty wants to do it through the donations and stuff, but Wendy doesn't want to do that. Just like Ruth wants to keep everything above board, so does Wendy, because if things kind of if they launder the large amount of money in this case, and if anyone ever goes looking, it destroys everything they're trying to build, because this is so important to Wendy. Once again, she's trying to fill the void in herself. Her dad probably made her feel powerless, nothing special, and now it's like, yeah, I get to show them. I get to show, like, you know, it's that need to prove herself, to fill that void inside of herself, that she's so adamant about, yes, this is a quick solution, but she doesn't want to jeopardize the future. She's not only trying to build for herself, but for her family, because this is about legacy, that this money, they will be new money that could, like, translate down and eventually descend down into, like, the descendants and stuff. It could be like, wow, we could, like, make our name, like, the Bird family could be like a household name type of situation, so... But her refusal to give that up, and she kind of pushes Rachel into like, oh, we need to, you need to make this happen. And he's like, right, you got something you want to say to me, Wendy? And I love that, you know, Rachel snapped back. I mean, to be fair, there was already beef like way in the beginning of early on in the series between them anyway, but even more so now. And she's just like, right, you are not a good person. You have no humor and stuff like that. And just you're calling her a nasty bitch, and walked away. And I love Wendy's line. I have a sense of humor, asshole. I was like, I love the comeback, Wendy. I love it. You would sure wait for her to walk away, because it took you a couple of seconds to come back with that. But I love that's what you focus on. It's like, ignore everything else. It's like, asshole, I have a sense of humor. I love that. That was so good. It just the delay makes it so much better, because it's like, yeah, that's typically what happens. Like, you don't think about your comeback until well after the fact. You're just like, ooh, yeah, if I said that would have been a nice burn. But, you know, she kind of ripped you a new one in that one, and your comeback wouldn't have been enough. So it's kind of good that she walked away, because she probably could have ripped you even further of a new one. But regardless, so to the point, Wendy actually gets Nelson to threaten Rachel, which Rachel brings this up to Marty, which Marty's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. And Rachel's almost like, wait, so this was 100% Wendy. Well, you have all these donors, you can do that. He's like, no, I can't. And she looks and she's like, wow, because Wendy won't let you. This is because of Wendy. It's like, and even Rachel's like, wow, I hope she's worth it in the end, because Marty, time and time again, continues to bend himself over backwards, because even to his kids' judgment, they're like, why do you bend yourself over backwards for mom? Like, why do you do so much for her? You don't have to, but he does. Going to Mexico was for her. He's doing it because he's also trying to keep his family together. Like, despite issues he has with Wendy, he wants to keep his family together. He wants them all to be together. But once again, Wendy's always kind of thrown a wrench in that to some extent. Once again, the whole getting them deeper into the cartel when they ended up when she asked Helen for help getting rid of Cade, and now everything in season 3, and now this. So they keep going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole because of choices that Wendy continues to make. So, but because of Wendy doing that, Ruth maybe she would have been a little bit more amendable, maybe before. I mean, she was already kind of no, but at least, because Marty's like, I know, I hurt her, we kind of screwed her over certain points in the past and stuff, but please, if she does this for us, we will leave her alone, never ask her for another thing again. But, Ruth has no intention because she already moved the money like offshore or something like that. So they're kind of boned in that regard. They can't launder money like they want to. They even try to sneak people into the casino to win and start laundering money, but that didn't happen because Rachel as well as Ruth are two on top of that. They didn't know at the time that those people were working for Marty and Wendy, but it just kind of... So they weren't going to make ends meet that way. Jim did call her about, things were swinging more their way. He's like, you're going to want to divorce your husband. She's like, what? You're going to want to divorce your husband and marry me because I got this stuff and these people on lock, so things are looking better. And that's what made her go to her dad, because she was feeling that high of like, yeah, we're on top of the world. Well, now, once again, because they still had the option of the fundraiser being how they laundered the money, but Wendy refused. That's not even an option on the table. So Wendy suggests, why don't we back Camilla? It's like, you mean the same person that wanted to kill Navarro? We can't trust her because it's the conversation of the devil you know, Navarro, versus the devil you don't know. Like, they've had very few interactions with Camilla, so we don't know how this is going to work out. The FBI, are they really going to be so amendable to us? Like, the FBI doesn't care. As long as they get their money from the seizures, they don't care. And so we can actually spin this. All we have to do is get Camilla to kill Navarro. She was already going to do it anyway. But it's like, right, so we side up with her, but what's to say she doesn't kill us? It's like, right, we give her a deal that's too good to be true, which they had their sit down with her. And it's like, right, what makes you think I'm going to kill my brother? It's like, Camilla, save us the trouble. We already know. We know you were the one that put the hit out on your brother, so let's do this. I mean, the fact is, this is such a amendable business for, like, you win, I win. It's a win-win all around, so it works out for all of us. And I'm just like, I don't know if you can 100% trust Camilla is my thing. And I'm like, once again, it's the devil you know versus the one you don't. I'd even suggested previously that things might come down to this, that she might end up killing Navarro and then coming after them just to kind of clean the slate. But it's like, yeah, they're useful, but they're also trying to get out of all of this. I don't know, because you don't know what's going through Camilla's mind and who she is in comparison to her brother. Is she just as psychopathic as a brother? Granted, she's in the cartel, so it's like that's kind of a no-brainer in that regard. But we don't know to what extreme length. Is she just like her brother, so quick to pop off, or is she a little more composed in certain regards? That becomes the big question. So Camilla's all about it, but she wants to see her brother one last time. And they're kind of like, I don't know if that's kind of a good idea. It's like, yeah, you might want to not see him one last time because it'll make you reluctant to pull the trigger. And then Camilla sits down with him. And I guess him referencing like, hey, she's like, you remember my wedding? You were like 15, you were causing trouble and stuff like that. And Dad was really mad at you or something like that. And she's like, my little buddy. And the moment she said that, I guess because Navarro knew in that moment, it's like, oh, you're setting this up for a bit. Goodbye. You're trying to kill me. He's like, all right, let me set the record straight. I didn't kill your son. It's like, what? I didn't kill Javi. I just took credit for it because I needed things to sway in my direction. It's like, well, who did? I don't know. I'm like, oh, okay, good. Because they never did tell him. Yeah, because they never did tell them. Because Wendy just said that Javi was dead. And it's like, right, who told you that? And it's like, Wendy did. You're like, oh, God. So Marty gets called up by Camilla. She's like, yo, so had an interesting conversation with my brother. Who killed my son? And it's like, she's like, I'll see you soon. That's the last we see of in that situation. I think that's the last time we see Camilla in the episode. We never got an on-screen conversation between Marty and Wendy about that. There was never any interaction on screen throughout the episode, because usually that stuff is handled on screen. Marty being like, okay, Wendy, Camilla knows that someone else killed Javi, and now it kind of puts our deal, because even later on he's like, what about the deal with Camilla? Either they struck a new deal and that was off screen, or Marty's still keeping pretenses up like everything worked. I'm like, you don't think he's gonna, this is where I'm like, I'm kind of scared and also curious. is he going to put it all on Wendy? Is he going to get Wendy killed because he thinks it's the better option for his children? Kind of like a very You situation. Spoilers for this past season of You, because Joe thought like love is too unstable to leave around their child. So what if it's something of that regard? I don't know. I don't know quite. I'm leaning towards that, but I'm not sure. I hope not, because I don't want Wendy to die, because I want them to be together as a family. Like, once again, this ain't the type of show that will have a happily ever after, but I still would want it to. So I'm so curious. I don't know. I get the feeling that the fact is Marty didn't have that conversation with Wendy makes me think he might be setting her up to take the fall, because he's not going to kill Ruth despite everything. He does care about Ruth. Ruth's got a new start, a new lease on life, especially because her and Rachel had the whole conversation, because Rachel's like, no, it's okay to be like feeling good about yourself, kind of rising above. Like, it's a new lease on life for both of us. And like, to have that conversation, I'm like, are they setting, and then with everything later on, I'm like, are they setting her up to get killed or Rachel to get killed? Which it plays out differently, which we'll get to later. But I'm like, I don't quite know. I don't know. And like I said, not like, I'm jumping around a little bit, but Nelson does go after Ruth later, and I'm like, did Marty or Wendy tell? And like, Wendy didn't say anything about it, not unless she's keeping that from Marty. But why would she? And then also, well, why would Marty do that, like, to Ruth? Because he does care about Ruth. He never put her in a position where she could end up dead. So, not unless Camilla figured it out. Because, like, only a few people know the truth. Ruth, Wendy, Marty, and Shaw. So not unless Camilla went to Shaw, got the information from Shaw that was actually Ruth that pulled the trigger, and that's why she sends Nelson after her. That's the only way I can see that, because once again, there was no on-screen conversation between Camilla and Marty or Wendy about that. So I talked about it a little earlier, but the conversation between Jonah, Charlotte, and Marty is like, right, what are you going to do? Dad, like, are you going to leave Mom when this is all said and done? When it, like, if it all ends tomorrow, what are you going to do? You're going to leave Mom? He's like, I want us to be together. He's like, no, you're not answering it. He's like, once we all get through this, because we all need to get through this, then there's some decisions to be made. So implying, like, I mean, to be fair, Wendy already gave him an out last episode. So if he wanted to leave, he can. But will he is the question, because once again, he's been very ride or die. Despite his frustrations, he's been very ride or die when it's come to all of this. So will he continue down that path? We'll see. I even love the whole thing of Wendy turning herself into that facility. And it's like, right, did you tell the kids? He's like, no, because I don't want them to worry. She's like, no, tell the kids. I want them to worry. That's the whole point. I'm like, you were really out there, Wendy. Like, it's like, maybe that head injury did a lot more. I mean, she was already in a very fragile state, and just things that just expedited even more. And so she wants the kids to know, because, like, right, she wants them to be so concerned that they're going to come home. So it's like, right, I'm not leaving this facility until the kids come home. And Marty's like, okay, sure, honey, and just leaves. So we'll see how that fans out. Once again, knowing that I guess them in the van together is maybe after they pick Wendy up from the facility and then they have the car accident. Maybe that's when that happens. But on top of that, Ruth notices that she's being followed, so she flicks off Nelson and bounces and talks to Ronnie. And she's like, all right, I'm going to tell you everything. The guy you got locked up isn't the one who killed Wyatt. I know, because it was a cartel guy named Javi. They were pissed about Darlene selling heroin, so they killed her and Wyatt. He's also the guy that killed Sheriff Nick, so take down those billboards, because you're not going to find him. You're also not going to find Javi either. I took care of that, killed him in Chicago. It's like, wait, so why are you... It's like, right, that guy in there, that poor bastard and asshole doesn't deserve to fall for this. You know, yes, he's a poor bastard and an asshole. That's the only reason why he's falling for this. But half of that's not on him. It's just, I guess it's like, right, life being stacked against him, just things playing out a certain way. She was given her second chance, you know, with her record being expunged, so she doesn't want him. I don't know whether she initially had this plan, or was it being followed by Nelson made her go like, you know what, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to confess all this just in case something does happen to me. I want this guy to at least have his shot. But by the time she comes out, Nelson's going, you're like, oh shit. And you're like, oh god, Rachel. But then she gets the rifle and you're like, okay. It's like, yeah, shoot Nelson the moment he gets there. And she does. And so part of me wonders, like, was Nelson actually there to kill you, or was he just there to question you? Either way, you killed the heavy hitter of the cartel. Camilla's not going to be too happy. Well, cartel in general is not probably going to be too happy about you killing one of their own. So that's probably going to be an issue. They're going to have to make him disappear. But you better hope that Nelson didn't report in. Because, well, Camilla probably sent him to investigate some stuff. So if he's missing, then, you know, just like her son, she's probably going to start asking questions. Because if she wasn't already suspicious of Ruth, like, that was just him doing a feel out to find out the truth. Not unless it is a thing of like, right, he was just there asking questions, and then Ruth and Rachel end up lying about it, and it's like, cool. Oh, the person who did it was most likely Wendy. So pointing, like, maybe Marty isn't the one that points them towards Wendy, but maybe they point Camilla towards Wendy. I don't know. There's just so much where I'm like, I'm nervous, dude, going into this series finale. I have no idea what to expect. I don't expect a happy ending. This is going to be depressing as hell. I hope this family gets away with it, but I still am leaning more towards Marty and Wendy probably won't make it. Charlotte and Jonah might, but it might be a thing of they might not make it either, but I'm leaning towards them being okay. I don't think Marty and Wendy are. Or maybe it's going to be a thing of Marty's going to walk away, but Wendy is. Oh, God, that's going to be depressing if that ends up being the case. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how this is all going to play out. We're here, ladies and gentlemen. Next episode will be the series finale, the final episode of Ozark. It's going to be a wild ride seeing how this all plays out. Like I said, I'm kind of nervous because I'm waiting for it to be a depressing ending, and I'm like, I'm sure every minute's going to count. It's going to come down to the wire when it comes to this ending. I'm sure it's probably going to be one of those endings. So we'll have to wait and see how all of these storylines ultimately end up playing out. I'd be curious about the Ronnie thing too, because Ruth said, like, right, I told you this. You can't tell anyone, because even if you did, they think you're fucking crazy, because it is a batshit crazy story. But also, if anyone asks me, I will completely deny anything I've admitted to. But even she at the end was like, Ronnie, you're going to be a good sheriff, because it's like, right, there's a lot of politics, high level shit, cartels, politicians. There's like so much political stuff mixed in this. It's so above your head. But you've got a good enough head on your shoulder that I don't see you like getting too wrapped up in this. Just, you're going to be a good sheriff. You're going to be okay, Ronnie. And Ronnie's just almost like, I can't believe you just literally dropped the biggest load on me just now. So, like I said, we will have to wait and see how Ozark comes to an end with the series finale. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.